actually test out. Yeah, let's dive right to it, shall we? So I'm going to go on. Again, the link is there. Please, 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 please have the slides open. It will make things so much more fun for you as we're going on. And I will just tell you kind of when we are, going from slide to slide to slide to slide. So I'm going to go on to the next one. A little bit about me. Right now, I will tell you, having now been, we started back to school in Indiana on July 26th. So we start back early. We're on balanced calendar out here. And since then, I've been very busy with the whole teaching thing. But outside of that, I'm an author of a book that came out kind of presciently, if I can comment so myself, about a year ago. That was about how to use technology to differentiate, called Don't Ditch That Tech. You might be familiar with the Ditch That Textbook series of Matt Miller's. Highly recommend those if you haven't before. Also, I run currently, it's not running right now just because of all the chaos with COVID, a co-host for new teachers, I co-host a podcast for new teachers called Make It Till Friday. And again, you can click on all these things in the slide presentation. It will take you out to them. And then I also do a lot of blogging for On Cue. That's kind of me in a nutshell. So running around and doing lots of things, is kind of my thing. So with that, I thought we might start out, and I'm actually going to backtrack here just a little bit. If everybody could post in the chat what their own definition of differentiation might be. There's no right or wrong answers here. We can just do this in the chat of Zoom. Well, the first three people must be sitting in a room with each other, meeting the needs of all students. That was nice. I was like, just uniformly, boom, boom, boom. Jamie says, making learning accessible to all learners. Carrie says, adapting instruction to meet all learners' needs. Meeting diverse needs of students without killing myself by creating a ton of alternative assignments. Oh yeah. Right now, my current setup at Avon is we just went back 100% full in person for the second time. We're trying it again, and doing a hybrid setup right now where I'm half online, half in person was kind of our mode for the last few weeks. So not trying to kill yourself in the attempt to make things accessible is definitely important. What else we got? I see we still got a few people who have yet to post. Definitely, please feel free to go ahead. There's no wrong answers here. And just a little bit of background on me too. No matter what apps or things that we talk about today, my background is a social studies teacher, and I'm also licensed in special education. So we're going to be kind of bridging the worlds here of technology and things like UDL and things like that together a lot today. Students' needs. Okay, I don't see anybody else posting unless they're really, really thinking deeply about this, which is okay too. So I think there is no one good definition for the whole differentiation thing. There's so much variety out there in terms of like what, again, like everybody's particular classrooms are so different. For me, I just actually changed schools this summer, and that has been quite the change in terms of what my students were capable and ready for. And so differentiating for my current group of students is entirely different than what it would have been for me at my previous school. Here's kind of what our goal here is for today. Because we don't have a ton of time, we are going to take just the briefest of moments for those who may not be familiar with, for example, like what UDL is. They maybe never heard of that before. That's kind of it was one of our big anchoring frameworks for our book that we wrote. We're going to take a little bit of time just to make sure people understand what that is first. And then once we do that, we're actually going to look at some applying, like how can we actually do this in our classroom, some good practical strategies of how can we differentiate with technology to meet our students' needs. And you're going to be able to choose between 4 areas, and we'll talk about what these are later and we'll get into them: activating attention, applying the real world, personalizing content, and developing some good metacognitive practices. And we'll try to show you all ways that you can do that with technology, even if you are 100% remote or in person or somewhere in between. So let's get to it. First, what is this UDL thing he keeps talking about? If you are not familiar with it, it's amazing. It's great. And it will change the way you fundamentally look at how you make information accessible to your students. Myra, if you want to drop in the comments there in the chat, cast.org, that's who came up with this philosophy. Is anybody, go ahead and please type in the chat. If you use UDL, tell us what it is and why you like it. Oh, here, it's cast. I'm sorry. Like if you break your leg. There we go. Yeah, cast.org. Yes, it's great. So yeah, so please, if you've heard of this before, like rant all about it in our Zoom thing. It's wonderful. I will give you the basic intro if you've never heard of it before. UDL was this idea that what if we took this whole architecture idea of like buildings should be accessible for people, and what if we applied it to learning? And so that's where this group kind of got this start with coming up with a working definition of differentiation. Now, you just heard me use that word, differentiation, and I want to show you this picture of mannequins because both for a lot of people are equally scary, or maybe that's just a me thing. I find mannequins to be terrifying. Okay, I think a lot of folks, when they hear the word differentiation and technology, it can be really, really scary. And there is nothing scary for me right now, other than COVID, than walking into an Old Navy and seeing this, because it scares the bejesus out of me. So differentiation, I think for a lot of teachers can be really, really intimidating. And I think I would mispronounce the last name, but I saw somebody earlier say like, with differentiation, it feels like you're like killing yourself trying to do so much. And like, it's like, how many different versions of these lesson plans do I need to make? And so UDL is going to give us an answer here that helps make this a little bit more simple. So again, I'm not going to go through everything in here because simply put, there's so much stuff with UDL that's like pure gold that we would need like a lot of time. But let's hit the big stuff up at the top. So the idea with UDL is that the more accessibility, the better. There's no such thing as too much access is the idea. So for example, like, do you have multiple means of representation so that your students can understand things from different perspectives or perhaps different models, things like that. Multiple means of action and expression. So like if once you've taught a particular skill or content, et cetera, do your students have varying ways that they can respond or demonstrate their learning or show mastery that's simply not just writing essays, as an example. Multiple means of engagement. Okay, so like, do your students have the options of choice? Do they have agency over their own learning? These kind of things. So, and again, you can dive more into these points and look at some of the different, frameworks of UDL. It's amazingly helpful in terms of kind of rethinking about how you make information accessible to your students, especially right now in all this, hybrid online setup. So let's just ever so briefly talk about, again, I'm not gonna have time to go through all of this, but for those who are not too familiar with, again, UDL and how that might have to do with differentiation, UDL is kind of like the beginning base platform that we start with for all learners, and it should be done hopefully for every student. What I've always been taught, and I think this is probably the best way to remember this, is that UDL is like a funnel, and making accommodations and things like that are a funnel for students. So at its very top, and you can kind of see this up here, UDL is accessibility for all learners with multiple means of representation, expression, engagement, those kind of things we talked about just on the last slide, right? But what starts to happen is that as our students are struggling more, that's when you're going to start to add in differentiation into the piece. So for example, these could be if you are doing RTI with your students, which is response to intervention, okay, and you have students polled in small groups and things like that, that you might start changing, formats, procedures. You might start having things varied on students, readiness or interest. It could, again, be completely dependent on what your group of kids is. The thing that I want to emphasize here that we're going to talk about today is at the bottom of the funnel, and this is not what we're doing. Unless the student is in special education, you cannot change the curriculum and their ultimate learning goals. Because again, that's a SPED matter. So no matter what we talk about today with digital differentiation, how to meet your students' needs, we're always getting students ideally to the same location. We might be taking various routes to get there, but if you're talking about changing the goalposts, that's a whole nother animal that is a whole nother kind of can of worms to open, if you will. Okay, so that's kind of my briefest background on again setting you up conceptually. Now, a lot you guys pretty much in the intro there, when you said like, what is differentiation to you? You basically nailed everything that I've always heard about differentiation. The idea that you respond to your learners' needs. They have various interests and backgrounds and preferences, and also then you modify your instruction to appeal to that. Again, it's going to vary highly based on who your particular students are and what their environments are and things like that. The last thing I think with that is, again, if you haven't heard of this lady, this might be another one that another person you might want to check out. Her name's Carol Ann Tomlinson. She is considered to be like the guru of differentiation. She's written like a stupid amount of books on the topic. That would take you a huge amount of time to read. She was awesome, and she actually wrote a foreword for her book, so I guess she must have liked it, which is great. And here's what she says about differentiation. It's come to mean consistently using a variety of instructional approaches to modify content, process, that's how our students learn, and or products, what they make or what they do, in response to learning readiness and interest of academically diverse students. And again, why we do this? Because all students aren't the same, and the structures that exist in the educational system are also not equitable. And so we need to make sure that we are attempting to actively modify things in advance, as well as sometimes on the fly. So that's kind of your differentiation and UDL 101 there. Where now we get to play around with some stuff and kind of get to why we're here. So right there, you can see basically what teaching in COVID feels like. And that is all of this technology that is crazy running away from us fast, like Zoom, that we can't keep up with, or TikTok, or go on and on and on. And also an increasing, I would say, acknowledging that our students are diverse and they have a huge amount of needs that range from social emotional skills to special education to English language learners. And then here's us in the back, not having fun. And that, I will tell you right now, is exactly how I feel teaching in the middle of all this hybrid setup and all that good stuff. It's really, really hard, the whole online thing. And then you add on top of that, a pandemic and differentiation, and it's difficult. So my goal here today is that you can walk away with a few practical strategies and some ways of thinking about this that you can use to make your life more simple and easy and hopefully just more enjoyable. Over here, you can now see that we've got some different models of learning. So I'm going to let people post here without spoiling any answers. If you can name any of these models, please post it in the Zoom chat if you recognize any of these, if you actually know their names. You can take a guess too if you want to take a guess. It's props to anybody if they can get all 4, because that would be very impressive. No, not Maslow. Maslow's not on here. I'm a little bit leery, I will be honest, about using Maslow because I'm a history teacher and I know how Maslow got his taxonomy, which is also, or well, his hierarchy of needs, which also is, I would recommend you Google that and check it out. Jamie's right though. Bloom's taxonomy is one of them. That's the top right one. Now that's kind of been replaced in many ways by DOK. Okay, if you're familiar with depths of knowledge, Webb's depths of knowledge, I highly recommend you check that out. Sammer, hey, yay, Sammer. Somebody knew Sammer. Okay, Sammer, I would expect somebody from Q would definitively know Sammer. Us being a bunch of technology nerds here. Sammer talks about the ways that your students are using technology, which is kind of interesting. Gardner, yay! Somebody else got Gardner. Yeah, down there. Okay, Gardner's Wheel of Multiple Intelligences. And then nobody's gotten the top left one, I don't think. I think, yeah, we got all the other 3. The top left one, that is 21st century skills. That is technically what their infographic looks like. So I look at that and I'm like, wait, we're already in the 21st century? Like, you know, we're already a fifth of the way through, but that used to be real popular, like back like 10, 15 years ago. I saw this going around all over the place. So we have all these educational models for all these things, right? And you know, I could just put up even pictures of them without the names, and you know what they are. So these things are out there, but what we don't have, again, here they are. If you need to know what they're about, but we don't have one for this. We don't have a model for this. Why not one to help teachers understand how they can best differentiate with technology? Like, I mean, think about how often we're using these devices, yeah? Like all the time. Again, you like literally have more computing power in your cell phone than like what sent people to the moon originally. And we don't have a handbook for how to best use these things. And to me, that was crazy. Me, like, you know, early on teaching, this is only my 7th year teaching now, but I've been I've taught in everything from super high poverty schools to now, and I guess the school district is more affluent. Like, this is something that affects all teachers no matter where you teach, is how you're going to be using devices. So I will show you in a second, this was our answer to this problem. But first, we're going to start to, because again, I'm a big believer in practicing what I'm preaching, we are actually going to differentiate the session for you. So if you're on the slides here, here's what you'll need to do. Okay, this is slide number 12. You need to come down here and you need to click this little notepad, and it's going to take you out to a Google survey. Okay, now this is going to then tell me what you would not only like us to talk about for the rest of our time here together, which is not a huge amount of time. We won't be able to dive into a ton of different areas, but we'll get to some. And then also it's going to tell you about how you typically like to use technology in the classroom. So at the very beginning, note, it has you put in an email address. The reason why we do this is not to subscribe you to anything. That's not what this is for. It's that we use this for a book raffle. And so after this is all done, we're going to send somebody an autographed copy of that book right there. There we go. Yeah, that book right up there. And that's the book we wrote, and we will send you a copy. So that's why we have the email in there. Also, if you accidentally submit this thing too fast, it will send you a copy of your results. So that way you can pull them up later. So the first question, it's going to ask you, how do students use technology in your placement where you are? Again, because I want to make sure that you might be a student teacher in this, watching this, or this could be your like official teaching job. Do students use cell phones? Do they bring a personal device? Are they provided a school device that they use? Do they have to travel to a computer lab or iPad, laptop cart, something like that? Or do they not use devices in your classroom? If none of those apply, then you can just type it in there. Again, this just helps me learn more about you guys. I'm just going to put other and spam it out so I can go on to the next part. Now, this is where you now get to vote for what areas you would like us to digest. So we have two choices, and please pick two. It's like Panera. Activate students' attention and knowledge, apply real-world experiences to learning, how to create varied personalized content experiences, or how to promote metacognitive thinking. Oh yeah, link to the slide deck. Let me copy it for you. I gotcha. So again, pick two, and those will be the two that we try to do to our greatest ability. All right. Now, the last slide I want to forewarn you about, it will kind of throw you for a bit of a loop. And that is because the labels, to make this sort of scientific, we kind of move them around. So be very careful answering these questions. It says, how do you use technology in the classroom? Okay. And it's got a series of questions. You just hit agree or disagree. And then once you're done, okay, before you submit, as a history teacher, I hate to ask you to do this. You have to do math. And you're going to have to, I want you to go through. Okay. So for example, let's say that I was like 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, as I went down, you need to add all of them up. So you should get a score that's like 22 or 25, et cetera, et cetera. And then once you're done, hit submit. Now, don't worry if you accidentally already hit submit before I got to this because you're really fast. There is a copy in your email that you put back, back there a few slides ago. So if you need to go back and do the math, that is back there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go check out people's points and see how we're doing. Also, this would be a good time if anybody has any questions so far and anything that we've talked about, please don't hesitate to ask. I promise I will answer them. If I can't do it now, I will definitely get to it at the end. Oh, and I will say as well, this is just more helpful things that I will try to do. When your email comes in here, I will, after this thing is done, I will send out some ebooks that we have written on a whole variety of things. EdTech for Beginners was one of our books that we've written. Podcasting in the classroom is something that I've done with students, and I've got an ebook on that that'll send you for free. Where do you put in our I cannot talk, our point total? You just write it down. It's for you. Yeah, you don't need to do anything with it. And let's see. Also, there is an ebook that I will send you that has been downloaded now, I think it's got to be over 10,000 times. It is on a teacher's guide to asynchronous, remote, and flipped teaching. And I wrote that with another author out there. Her name is, she wrote Tech with Heart. Her name is Stacy Roshan. So it looks like we've got 10 people who finished so far. Let me see, let me do my advanced math. We got 17 in here. So when we hit probably about 15 or so, I will start to go on. It looks like the majority of you are provided a school device they bring to class. One person, okay, they have access to Chromebooks. Okay. I love Chromebooks, by the way. If any teachers use Chromebooks, I was so impressed with them in my first 5 years of teaching. Now I'm on at my new school, which not to sound like, DA from the Magic School Bus here, but like at my old school, no, but like in my new school, it's a BYOD setup, so students bring all their own devices, and it is a consistency nightmare that I hope you never have to encounter as a teacher. It's very, very different than all students having the same device. All right, so we've got 11 in. Might be waiting on a couple more. It looks like by far the most two popular ones are activating students' attention and knowledge and creating varied personalized content experiences. I don't even know if even if we get in the other votes, then we might be able to beat those. Those look like they were definitely wanted. Now, if these are going to be the two areas we do, again, we'll try to do them as much as we can. I'll probably do the varied personalized content experiences first, just because that does have more one more vote. If you are like, man, I really wish I could have gone back and heard like the real world experiences and metacognitive thinking, you have permanent access to this slide presentation. You can go back to it years from now and it will still be there. Please just remember that, don't feel like I'm going to, be leaving you out, if that helps. Okay, so it looks like those are our top two. I'm not seeing any more submissions come in, so just to respect everybody's time, we will keep going on. You should have, again, gotten some kind of point total down there. We'll talk about what that's for here in a second. And let's get back to this. So this is the model that we came up with, my mom and I, who is my co-author. Yes, my mom is actually a professor of education. We wrote that thing together along with Matt Miller. This is the model that we put in the book and that we came up with. So for tech and differentiation, we have teacher-led technology, interactive tech, students choosing the process, students choosing the content, and then student-driven content and quality feedback. Let's actually break down what's happening here though, okay? First of all, differentiation is a continuum. Okay, there is going to be times where you can differentiate like an all-star, and there's going to be times where that's simply not possible because of, it could be the content you're teaching or the students that you have that particular day, and that's okay. What you should notice is that as this thing goes down, the differentiation is going to get more intensive and it's going to get more student-centric. If I could like spam all the Frozen memes here about letting go of control, this is where I would do it, because ultimately differentiation is about letting go, and that can be really, really hard. Let's actually talk about them, what those points are for. We decided in the book that teachers needed a model that was accessible, speaking of accessibility, to understand about how they differentiate. And so what you need to do is you need to take the points that you got, and you can see we have given you an archetype about how you might typically differentiate in the classroom, okay? First of all, again, just to remember, none of these are worse or bad than one another because differentiation is a continuum, and also it's a journey, right? It's gonna take you time to get really, really good at differentiation if this is not something that you've thought about, especially differentiation with technology, because that's kind of a whole other game. So let's talk about what these are. The pilot, okay, teacher-led technology. If you were on an airplane right now, which I don't think any of us are or doing much of anymore, again, how a pilot might tend to use technology in the classroom is they're going to be the ones driving the bus, so to speak. The students, they're just along for the ride. They have no input again, you can't stand up on a plane and be like, I'd like to go to Canada instead, please. You can't do that, right? So again, the teacher is going to be the one driving wherever things are going. This might be, for example, like a Zoom, like I'm doing right now, right? I'm the one steering, this presentation, and if it were just like, blank slide after blank slide after blank slide with no interaction, that would kind of be what again a pilot is doing. Again, PowerPoint might be a classic example of this. A museum exhibitor, excuse me. This is where the technology starts to get a little bit more fun, where the text starts to become interactive. Again, I don't know if we're all going to a lot of museums right now, but if you go to a museum, a lot of more up-to-date museums have stuff that's playable, and like, you can lift up flaps, right? Or you can, like move things around, especially like children's museums, they're so good at being so interactive. And that's where, when you start to make the tech interactive in your classroom, again, you're making that a more student-centric experience. So this might be stuff like Kahoot, whose theme songs continue to haunt my nightmares. to quizzes, to, who knows, right? Again, there's lots of ways that you can make tech interactive. A restaurant owner. Now we're starting to get much more along the lines of students driving the process. So students choosing the way that they want to learn, okay, is really, really important and also very, very powerful. The whole idea is I'm still the chef. I'm still deciding what's on the menu content-wise, but students get to pick from a menu of options, okay, about how they want to eat that meal, right? The council member is now students having a voice or a vote on that content itself, okay? Again, this relies upon a lot of letting go of control. That's what that one is. The creative art coach, that's where you're starting to really start to push the whole like very individualized, very tailored instruction where you're giving students individual feedback and good, of good quality and helping things that are going on with their thinking, like metacognition, okay, or again, good quality coaching. So there you go. That is our model. Now, again, there's tons of applications of this that we're going to try to get to today. We're only going to be able to get to a couple areas. So our goals here, we are going to try to first do this one, creating varied personalized content experiences. If we have time, we'll try to go into activating students' attention and knowledge, because that was the second most requested area. But again, notice me, I'm trying to differentiate the session for you, because that's what we're here for, right? So you'll want to be on slide 16 at this point. Okay, so slide 16, this is our guide slide. Everything from this point on is going to be clickable. It's going to be interactive. You're going to have examples you can go and look at, lots of things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our kid right here that says personalizing content. And when I do that, it's going to jump me to a new slide, okay? So this is slide number 25. Now, I think in terms of all of the presentations I've done with groups and people before, this one is one of the most requested areas that I've ever encountered. And I think it's because doing varied personalized content is probably the most time consuming and confusing and difficult thing for a teacher. But I want to show you here that it doesn't have to be. And that there's even just like, we're going to look at a few very, very simple tools that you can use to try to be very, very intentional about your differentiation. And again, Tomlinson, you can see here a quote from her that advocates for active planning for student differences in the classroom. So I'm on slide 27 now. We're going to be really hitting down here into the bottom of that model that I talked about earlier. So if you are a restaurant owner, think of this as like an area where you might grow to, right? Or if you are, for example, like a pilot or a museum exhibitor and you scored there, okay, it's like, oh, this is where I could be if I try some of these things. If you're a council member or creative art coach, this is a place where you can simply add another tool into your toolkit that you might try. The big thing that I would emphasize here is that if you do, if you're either, somewhere between Idea Lab or like, I need this as a tool that I would like to try, is that, and we repeat this in the book a lot, take it slow, like poco a poco, step by step. Try one thing in your classroom for 15 minutes to see if it makes a difference in your students' learning outcomes. Don't try to do it all at once. Let's go on now and look at some examples. So some of these you might have heard of, some you might not have. So if you can, I'd like you to type in the chat ones that you have not heard of that are currently listed up here. We have class time, IORAD, Google Drawing, Insert Learning, and Choose Your Own Journey stories. So because I'm trying to be cognizant of your time and tailor this to you, which ones have you never heard of before? IORAD, class time, I've only used drawing before. Okay. So IORAD and class time are two that we've definitely never heard of. Insert Learning is cool. Yep, okay, I've got a couple people who haven't heard of Insert Learning. Okay, cool. So we'll just kind of hit them from left to right. That works for me. So class time. You might have ever heard of like a Socrative before or something like that. Class time is like that, but I really, really prefer it. And I've used it now for, gosh, I think like 3 years. It's been wonderful. Let me go ahead and I'm going to log into my own so you can actually see it. By the way, that link right there that it just took you to, if you click on class time itself on the screen on this PowerPoint presentation, it gives you, I think it's like 2 months of premium for free. But I used it for free for a year until I was like, okay, this is so good. I deserve to pay them money. And it's not that expensive. But again, free tool, a teacher's favorite price, right? I'm just going to show you what is capable of doing on the free end of things because it's amazing. And if it is free, it's so wonderful that I can't imagine not. I could not have survived the last year, a few years without this thing. So what does it do? It is a rapid fire assessment tool. So something about differentiation is being very, very intentional about, for example, like the data that you're gathering, right? Because then you can use that information to help inform you about what you should do in your instruction afterwards, right? So, for example, you might have used Google Forms or, Microsoft Forms or things like that before. This is so much faster. And you will see why. So I'm just gonna, you can see it on my screen and you can kind of get into it yourself. And I encourage you after this time to play around with it. I'm just gonna start like a mock session and I will actually send this to you all just on the link so you can actually see what it's like from the student perspective. So here you go. You don't need to do anything fancy, logging in. If you just wanna like put your first name, that's okay. But here's what it looks like for you as a teacher, and you can see it on my screen. So here's all my students. Okay, these are all famous scientists and other philosophers and people like that they toss in here. But I've got 5 questions on a warm up, and so now, yeah, here you guys come. We got actually people coming in. So when students jump in to a session, and you can see literally me sending one out is as simple as sharing a QR code, because for littles, it does look like GoFormative. It is kind of like GoFormative. Yeah, that might be one you might have used. For littles, having them try to type in letters and numbers to log into an app is crazy hard. So it gives you a QR code that you can share with your students if you'd like to do it that way. The easiest thing that I think is just having them click on a link, and that's what I just dropped in the chat, right? Now what this does, and again, I will just go back to show you what this looks like, is when I'm as a teacher, I get this dashboard view. And again, I can change all sorts of settings here, shuffling questions and, round base mode. I can ask students to do some metacognition after it if I want to. I can even schedule a session so that it's open only at certain times. So if you want to use this as a more, non-formative, more summative assessment for students, you could do that. And then I get all this information super fast. If you have used GoFormative before, it is kind of like that. Yes, and it does give partial scores. That is something true there if you do those types of questions. Now, just so you can see what it actually looks like from the teacher end, again, this is why I stinking love this app so much, is that I've got this question here. The Industrial Revolution caused a shift from blank power to blank power. But what I can do is I can highlight over this and I can see the exact students that, let me zoom out and see if I can get it to correctly show up. I can see the exact students that did not do well on this, right? Like I've got the information right here. I've got it immediately. It's immediately accessible. Choose all the sources that powered the first revolution. So again, you could do, multiple questions, things like that. My favorite thing is this. So I'm just going to click on this and show you, because again, it's about time saving, right? With differentiation. So let's say I give them an answer, like a short answer. I want them to type, like a word or two. What caused the first industrial revolution? Now, what class time does, and this is why this is amazing, is if let's say a student types in cows, right? And that is the correct answer. And I go, yes, it is definitively cows that caused the Industrial Revolution. And I say yes, and I check mark that. class time will remember that answer for any time ever that I ever do this question set ever again. And if a student says cows, it will auto grade it as correct. So you can like imagine the amount of time saving that this does with short answer questions where you have to go through and like if you're doing those kind of questions, that alone for me when I've asked those kind of questions has been great. And so it saves me all that time having to go through. Students can be anonymous if they want to. If you want students to anonymously do it, Myra, that is totally fine. You know, for example, like I can hide the names if I don't want students to be able to see everybody's, right? I have that option. But you can have students also complete the sessions anonymously. What I've been doing lately, again, because I've only had half of my students at a given time, is I've had students log in with Microsoft or you know, Google, and so that way I can verify them for attendance purposes. So, yeah, oh, it means to display the students anonymously. Yes, yes. Now, they've also got one on here that I love. Here's another question. Click the country where the first industrial revolution started. So it's also got, class time does, these questions called hotspot questions. And what I did, and I know it's kind of hard to see, is I drew a little box around England. And so students, to get this answer correct, and you can, again, you can try this on your own session with the link that I sent out earlier. They have to click on that part of the map to get the answer correct. So like imagine again, if you're teaching like a science class or anything that is of any graphic, you know, question of nature, you could say like, click on the organ that pumps blood to the human body. And students would then have to click on the heart, and you could see which students put answers in the wrong places. And so again, having your students be able to answer these in a variety of ways is also again a double plus. Why I like this is because, again, I've got all this data right here that I can make decisions with right away as about how I'm going to differentiate. And I know from having used Google Forms and now Microsoft Forms, both of them, I'm in the middle of switching between those two, which is also another fun story, that this is much faster than going through one of those options. So that is class time. It has a library where you have all your own questions. You can also pull questions from Khan Academy. You can also share question sets with another teacher if another teacher uses this. So there's lots of options there that I would highly recommend you check out. They've also got this cool thing called collaborative challenges, which I would love to show you, but I'm simply not going to have enough time to do so. So it kind of takes the whole idea of like tearing each other to the shreds on like Kahoot and actually forcing students to work together, which is really, really cool. So that is class time. It's wonderful. I would have not simply been able to survive hybrid teaching without that, and also Pear Deck. But Pear Deck is another wonderful app that, if you haven't checked it out. Let's talk about then IORAD. Again, please put questions about class time if you have them in the chat. Let's talk about IORAD. So you can see right here, it's a very, very simple screen. It says the fastest way to capture application how-tos on the planet. This is a kind of unsexy way to say, teach anybody how to do anything really easily. That's what IORAD does. I'm gonna go over here and sign in just so you can actually see one, and then I will share one of these IORAD tutorials with you. If you remember back in the good old days, I'm going to just pull a random one here for you. And share that with you guys. So I will copy this and then dump it in the chat. And again, I highly encourage you to actually click on this and go through it because it will show you what this thing can truly do. I know that anytime that I've asked my students to do anything that's procedural in nature, like it's got complicated step-by-steps, right? I've done like station work before, you know, things like that. If I even want to have teachers, this is my plea. If you are sending out stuff to parents about how to get into Power School or any of the, you know, platforms, LMSs that your students are using, make one of these that tells your parents how to log into them and teaches them how. So here's what IORAD does. So if you remember like back in the good old days, I was about to say, you had to go to the computer lab, right? And you did that. And then if your teacher was like, okay, kids, we're doing a web hunt today, because that was all, you know, that was the only way we could use the internet then. And we did that. maybe the teacher would have like this piece of paper for you, right? That have like, go to this, then click on this, then click on this. And then it has like, if they're really sophisticated, they have like the screenshots on it, right? Because they've like figured out how to do that. This takes that and goes nutsy to another level of accessibility. So again, if you want to make content open to your kids, make one. Now, I didn't know if you heard that. Did you hear did you guys hear the audio in the background? Okay, it's okay if you didn't. So what you're looking at here is you are looking at my students and a lesson that we were doing, the Erie Egyptians, and they have to do on the screen what they would have to actually do to get into the lesson. So for example, it says click the warm-up to begin. They have to physically take, here, and then they have to click on there to get to the warm-up. Now read today's objectives. So it tells them, and by the way, you don't hear the audio, but it's going off in my head right now. There's audio with this, and it reads the directions to them, what I've typed over here in the corner. So they click, complete today's mini lesson. Inside the mini lesson, click the Ed Puzzle video here. Bullet down what you think are the 5 most important points from the video. And so it takes them step by step through exactly what they need to do. So I did this for my parents when I was, again, at my old school. I was like, here's how to get into a parent, to get into a parent Canvas account. Is it free? Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is free. Again, teacher's favorite price. It's free. It don't cost nothing. Now, if you do want some of like the real advanced features, and this is some stuff that's like, you want to have like custom audio in these like things that, that are right here, that costs money. But like, for example, and I'll go back here. If you want to translate any of these directions, this is free, doesn't cost anything. I want to like, okay, I know I've got a family who's from Germany and they don't know how to access everything they need. It automatically translates everything, including the audio, into German for you. Like, so again, really, really powerful, really, really accessible for students who are English language learners, right? And you've got like or complex procedural things that you're asking them to do. Yes, it is free. So, and then I think they give you like 2 tutorials that have like all the pro features on them. But all the rest you make then are the free ones. It's great. How this thing works, by the way, and how you actually use it is it's a Google Chrome add-on, but it's also a desktop application if you want to do that too. And it just records your clicks going around. So you kind of like actually model and go through what it would actually be like. And then it records it, and then it turns that into this interactive tutorial. And again, that's the thing that makes this really distinctive. It's not just a list of things. The students are actually having to do what they'll have to actually go and do, right? So it's kind of, people have asked me, why is this like, how is this any different than making a screencast? Well, it's different because number one, it goes at their pace, right? Screencasts don't go at a student's pace. They have to constantly keep pausing. Second, it can be translated into, hundreds of languages within a second. And then third, it's way less bandwidth than video. It doesn't require, like streaming capabilities, which is wonderful. So that is IORAD. And the link again, if you want it, it's just, you click right here. They're amazing. They work with teachers like all the time. So I like, please, check them out. They are criminally underknown, in my opinion. And then the last one was insert learning. Now, again, how much time do we have left? Am I running out of time, Myra? I want to be conscious that I'm not holding people too long.
I think you have another 10 minutes. Another
10 minutes. Okay. So I'll just show then a couple more examples from here. I won't try to go into some of these other areas. By the way, if there's other areas here that you're like, oh man, I wish we could have gone and talked about those things, just go back here onto this guide slide and click on them, and they're all there. Okay. So let's get back to this here real fast. I thought I might show insert learning. Probably the best way that I can demonstrate insert learning to you. You can see here, this is what it looks like on one particular lesson. And I think the easiest way is actually probably just to go to insertlearning.com. We had that loaded where you could like log into a, you know, like a particular lesson. We tried that, but unfortunately my mom isn't here presenting with me, so she can't give you access to her classroom right now. But anyways, this GIF right here shows you how it works. So if you have any, again, thinking about differentiating content, if you have any web page, I'm talking anything that's on the internet, if you would like to differentiate it for your students, you can take this app. It's a science teacher, I think in like Minnesota, who made this thing, and it's great. You can insert any instructional content, like video, scaffolding, questioning, anything for free to your students. So for example, like let's say that they're reading about this play, you can see right here, and you want to, again, you know, you've got a group of students who really struggles with, for example, like overall comprehension and short nonfiction passages, right? You drop in here, you could add a sticky note and you drop in a YouTube video that's embedded inside of the web page. Now, where this gets real crazy is after you've made your lesson in insert learning, and again, you've made it, you can copy paste something that I call copy paste mutate that lesson, where you simply make another copy of it. And then for a different group of students, you add a few mutations and if they need less or more scaffolding. So for example, maybe one of your students or a group of your students, they really thrive with having a word bank in there, right? And so you add in a little bit of scaffolding that way. It's wonderful. You can combine it with stuff like Newsela, Wonderopolis, all, you know, it's awesome. The thing that's really cool too is that because this is a tool that students are using, is that like they can highlight, they can annotate with this, and you get all of their answers to questions they might do on there. You get all their annotations that they did back to you, you know, sent back to you. And so it becomes this immensely powerful interactive content tool for any web page, which is awesome. So again, this is free, costs absolutely nothing. It's a Google Chrome add-on. So especially, I know somebody earlier was saying all my students have Chromebooks, boom, here you go. And again, creating one of these for me with an insert learning, maybe 5 minutes, maybe tops. If I'm getting real crazy with it, then maybe I go and I make, you know, like an alternative copy for another group of students if I have students with IEPs or 504s. And, you know, it does not take very much time at all. So the other thing that's cool about it too is that you can build in all of these tools that, and you probably know some of these, Edpuzzle, Flipgrid, YouTube, Quizlet, like all of these things, you can dump those into the session too with students. So it's awesome. It's great. I would highly recommend that. Again, if you especially have a very heavy web page, like heavy kind of class with a lot of like, again, like need for scaffolding, this thing is here for you, and it's awesome. The last deal that, because you guys said that you knew Google Drawing pretty well, is Choose Your Own Journey Stories. So if you are not familiar with Choose Your Own Journey Stories, these are the things that you read as a kid that like said, like, if you want to do this, go to page 5. If you want to do this, go to page 75. And of course, I always picked the wrong one and died. But you know, enough about me. Right here, what this sends you to, again, you just click where it says Choose Your Own Journey Stories, is it will give you a template. You can make these on your own. Okay, you can make them in Google Slides. It's really easy. And they're a wonderful interactive way to teach your students anything. These work in any content area. I've seen them work in math. I use them in social studies all the time. If you want examples of stories that I've done, okay, you can see them right here. There's even a tutorial linked here on YouTube that can show you how to make your own. And it feels a little bit intimidating at first, but once you've got them made, you have them forever. And this is a really fun, interactive way to scaffold content with your learners. So that is all there for you. Now, because I'm trying to be conscious of time, I know that I'm running low. So I want to make sure that I go here to this last, that I leave a few minutes for questions. And I also want to give us a couple, myself and my mom, a couple of shout outs. Number one, if you didn't put your email into that survey you did earlier, I'm going to be emailing somebody from that list and asking you for your address so that I can send you one of these books. So please make sure you do that. And then for more good stuff, right here, this is our Twitter, at Teach from Ridge. So you can follow us there. We try to post as regularly as we can with good stuff. And then the last thing is we have a blog that is full of stuff. It's teachingfromtheridge.com. Here's what it looks like. And so we've got a ton of stuff on here that will hopefully be helpful. I mean, again, everything from like free phone contact logs that you can use with your students, more about how to use Flipgrid to make things more accessible. Right now, I will dump here in the chat this specific one, even though I will be sending it out on email. Let me find it real fast. Where did my chat window go? I lost it. There we are. So here's the link to a bit.ly. And this is the ebook that I put together with another author. Oh, I got to do, of course, www or HTTPS, right? So yeah, if you take that bit.ly anyways, and you copy paste it into a browser, I can't, Myra, if you want to hyperlink that thing, figure out how to, that would be awesome. That takes you, and here's what it looks like. This has been downloaded over 8,000 times. I know it's got to be close to 10,000 by now. It is an ebook for asynchronous remote and flip teaching. And Stacy and I, we put this together. It's in its second edition already. So we talk about, well, welcome to teaching in COVID. And so if you would like a ton of stuff on, we're still adding new chapters about helping parents. That one's coming soon. If you're a beginning ed tech user, if you're a little bit more advanced and want to explore stuff like Edpuzzle and Pear Deck and things like that, HyperDocs, that is all there. So that is what I will leave you with for right now, and technically the end of this presentation. Okay, but again, feel free to take, steal, share from this, whatever you would like to. Whatever you got from it, it is all yours. You're welcome. If anybody has any questions, I will definitely be able to assist you with whatever I can. You're welcome, Nancy. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, UDL is, there's a lot to it. But there's I will tell you, if that's something that sounds like interesting, like the idea of accessibility, it's so important right now, like just again, in terms of like internet access, right, alone. Like if I didn't have UDL, I would not be the same teacher that I am right now. So it's really, really important. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you feel empowered. That was my goal. It's not to tell you how to teach. I just want to make sure that you feel like you've got tools that you can utilize. Oh yes, and Myra says, don't forget to complete the survey. So Bertha, do you work for Q then?
No, I'm part of Q Los Angeles.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know,
we're all
You
volunteers.
know Kristen then.
Yes, she is amazing. She's all driving all of our at least our affiliate. She really gets us
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
for sure.
I've worked with her a lot. She's great.
She's great.
So Myra, are you a part of QLA then too?
No, I'm part of Orange County Q, and
Okay.
I was on the Q board for about 3 years, the
Oh.
mother Q board.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so then you know what's the name? John Caporio, or yes.
John Carippo.
Yes, John, thank you, Carippo.
Yes.
Yes. I've worked with John a bunch. It's just it's been so well for you guys it hasn't been a long day yet, but for me, I mean I'm hitting like 7 o'clock here, so
Yeah.
John's great. He's wonderful. He's a force of personality, that one.
Mm-hmm.
He was so funny. We were at the last ISTE, the last in-person one, and we were standing next to Matt, and he kept shouting out about every 15 minutes, "Is that Matt Miller?" Like, this, it's funny because, Matt is so well known.
That sounds like something he'd do.
I tell you, I am, as a Hoosier out here with no Q, it's terrible. I wish we had you guys out here in the Midwest.
Well, you had that Indiana Connected Educators.
Yeah, we
conference.
have ICE, which is out here. Also, that's I know you can't see this, but see that? Do you see that plaque up there? That was for the Indiana Connected Educators Teacher of the Year for last year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went to a couple sessions they had this summer. I thought they were great.
Yeah, they were wonderful. They did their conference all online, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, and they had so many good speakers. Oh my goodness. It's some big heavy hitters there. Well, are you guys utilizing this room for a presentation after this one? Because I want to make sure that I'm still sticking around for people if they might.
No, this is the last one for today because we're moving into the main room now.
Okay, awesome. Well, if it's okay, then I will probably peace out because I'm sure that I need to go help my wife with groceries, and she just got back. So
yeah, it might be nice.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys again for having me.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate your time. So, all right. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.